Hi everyone and welcome, this is the Apostate Prophet. In every century, at every time, it is very popular among Muslims that the end is very near, and that there are numerous prophecies by Muhammad that have been fulfilled, and that show that the end is very near. Usually, these supposedly fulfilled prophecies are diligently cherry-picked and brutally bent in order to make it look like Muhammad said something that could be in some way understood as if it relates to something that has happened recently. Like Muhammad said that a sign of the last hour is that earthquakes will increase. And see, we suddenly have a lot of earthquakes everywhere, which means the end is near. We actually don't have more earthquakes. We're just able to record them better. And they impact more people, which is why we notice them more. Meanwhile, people ignore some completely failed prophecies, such as Muhammad saying that Constantinople will be conquered by the Muslims, and then the end of the world will start soon. Constantinople was conquered in 1453 by the Muslim Ottomans, and is now called Istanbul. Yes, it's true, I lived there. And guess what? The world is still spinning. But that's why they say now, well, it will be conquered again, in the future, because meanwhile the Christians will conquer it back, and then we will conquer it again, and then the end will come. Of course. These Islamic fantasies are amazing. Muslims are so much in love with Muhammad's prophecies because they have always believed that the end is near, that we are in the end times, that the last hour is very soon, and that we shouldn't bother with worldly hassles, and we should focus on saving our faith instead, and preparing for the afterlife that is soon, and holding together against the infidel. That's why the Islamic world is such a failure. People have been reinforcing this ridiculous idea by constantly reaffirming themselves that Muhammad's prophecies have come true and are coming true. They do this today. They did it 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, and even 1,400 years ago, when Muhammad was still alive. Did you know that Muhammad actually thought and preached that the end of the world was coming very soon? I don't know if Muhammad actually believed that or if he just pretended, but he even said that the world was going to end within the century. According to the Hadith, the most fundamental Islamic source besides the Quran, when speaking about the last hour, Judgment Day, or the Day of Resurrection, Muhammad joined his index finger and his middle finger and said, "I and the last hour have been sent like this." So he basically said, the distance between my arrival and the last hour is like this. What does anyone understand from that? Muhammad basically said that the last hour was almost there, any time now. It's going to happen very soon, it's like this. When I point this out to Muslim apologists, they want to challenge my definition of soon. They say that I don't understand Muhammad's definition of soon, of Muhammad's distance of this. But of course they do that, because that's the only choice they have. They cannot possibly accept that Muhammad predicted the end of the world and then failed, which is why they have to find the fault in my objection. But if I told you there is going to be a great war, and it is this soon, what would you think? If 1,400 years passed after me without anything happening, you would probably think I was full of crap. You wouldn't say, well, it depends on how you define that. I mean, he said soon. That could mean whatever. You would condemn me, you would call me a fraud. But the weird finger prophecy is by far not all there is. One day, a group of people came to Muhammad and asked him when the last hour is. Look what Muhammad said. A person asked Allah's apostle, when would the last hour come? Thereupon Allah's messenger, may peace be upon him, kept quiet for a while. Then he looked at a young boy in his presence and said, if this boy lives, he would not grow very old till the last hour would come to you. So Muhammad sees a little boy and says that if this boy lives, meaning if he makes it into adulthood, he won't grow very old, and Judgment Day will come. So this guy, if he survives, will witness Judgment Day before he grows too old. It could not be any clearer. This happened somewhere at the beginning of the 7th century. That kid is most definitely not alive. Muhammad gives a very clear answer, a hypothetical time at which that boy wouldn't be very old, on the question when the world will end. I know, you would think, this is as clear as it gets. How could anyone still object to this? But a common Muslim apologetic response, of course, is that he meant their last hour as in the death of the person or the people who asked would come before the boy grows too old. But that is a very, very poor excuse, made out of desperation. The people clearly asked about the last hour, the end of the world. Why would Muhammad suddenly respond with their death instead? Oh, thanks, Prophet, for not answering my question and talking about my death instead. And if all that is not enough, here is something even clearer. One night, Muhammad was leading the night prayer, and after he was done with the prayer, he said to his followers, "Do you realize the importance of this night? Nobody present on the surface of the earth tonight would be living after the completion of 100 years from this night." According to another report, I heard Allah's Messenger as saying this 1 month before his death. You asked me about the last hour, whereas its knowledge is with Allah. I, however, take an oath and say that none upon the earth of the created beings would survive at the end of 100 years. This is in numerous sources. Obviously, this hadith is very problematic because he clearly says that no one will survive the century, which means the world will end within 100 years, and he said that in 632 AD, yet nothing happened. That's why Muslims argued very much about what this means, and they brought a very ridiculous explanation. That Muhammad just wanted to say, everyone who lives now will be dead within 100 years, and that's it. Why would Muhammad just say something like that? What is the point of that? Why would Muhammad say, this is a very important night, because in 100 years you will be all dead, and then other people will live? Okay, that's not even true. It is virtually impossible that no one survived those 100 years, considering that we have always had people who live beyond 100 years, and we most definitely had them at that time as well. And the hadith also includes all creatures on the surface of the earth. And there are so many animals, so many creatures that live far beyond 100 years. Muhammad was clearly delusional, and he made a promise of the end of the world with numbers that never came. Why would Allah's favorite last prophet, who is fully guided by Allah, who is sent to wake up humankind and bring them the final message, the final guide by Allah, make such an empty doomsday promise, a failed promise, and leave it to his devout Muslim followers to reinterpret these failed prophecies? In other examples, we see that Muhammad was once scared that the last hour was happening. In another example, his companion Umar swore that another companion was the expected Dajjal, the Islamic Antichrist of the end times, and Muhammad didn't deny it. So the fear that the end is any time now did exist in his time. He thought Muslims would be fighting the Romans and conquering Rome before the end, that the end will come when the Caliphate settles in the Holy Land, in Jerusalem. That happened in 637, 1,400 years have passed. Where is the end of the world? By Islamic standards, according to Islamic sources, the end of the world must have happened already, about 1,300 years ago. But of course it didn't happen, because Muhammad was a liar, or he was simply delusional, and he gave us this false belief that is sick. He has stolen our dreams and our childhood with his empty words. How dare you? Muhammad's prophecies might be full of crap, but today I want to prophesy and promise that Islam will dramatically decline and end within the next 200 years. And no, you won't get full-breasted, big-eyed, untouched grapes. I'm not that kind of a prophet. It's also still November. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to like, to subscribe, and to share. Most of my videos are not monetized, so you can watch them without ads. If you want to support this channel and what I'm doing, you can support me on Patreon. The link is below in the description. I appreciate all your support very much. I will be back with more. Until then, have a great day and stay away from Islam.